The silence in our home used to be comfortable. It was the easy silence of two people who had orbited each other for a decade, a silence filled with unspoken understanding and shared history. Now, it was a chasm. It was the sound of my wife Sarah staring at her phone, a faint, private smile playing on her lips that was no longer for me. Our perfect life, the one we'd meticulously built in our sun-drenched suburban home with its manicured lawn and two-car garage, had become a museum of a marriage I was beginning to suspect was already dead. It started with whispers, not words. The whisper of her phone screen angling away from me, the whisper of late-night texts that she'd dismiss as gallery business or chatter with the girls. Sarah was an artist, a painter whose canvases were as vibrant and chaotic as her personality. I, a structural architect, was her anchor. I provided the foundation, she provided the color. It had always worked. But lately, the color was fading from our life and being splashed onto some secret canvas I wasn't allowed to see. The hook, the tiny metal barb that snagged the fabric of my denial, appeared one Tuesday evening. I was looking for a pen in her purse, a beautiful leather tote I'd bought her for our 9th anniversary. My fingers brushed against something small, hard, and metallic. It wasn't a pen. It was a single, expensive-looking watch link, the kind you'd see on a high-end men's timepiece. It was platinum, heavy in my palm. My own watch was a simple, durable steel diver. This was not mine, and it certainly wasn't hers. When I asked her about it, her response was so smooth, so practiced, it was chilling. "Oh, that? I found it on the floor at the gallery today. Someone must have dropped it. I was going to put it in the lost and found tomorrow." She didn't even break eye contact. She took it from my hand, her touch as casual as if I'd handed her a grocery receipt, and dropped it into a ceramic dish on our entryway table. The clink it made echoed the cracking of my heart. I knew, with a certainty that settled like ice in my gut, that she was lying. That was the beginning of my descent. I became a ghost in my own home, a detective in the ruins of my marriage. I hated the man I was becoming, suspicious, paranoid, checking her phone when she was in the shower. But the need to know, to confirm the shape of the monster I was sure was lurking in the shadows, was all-consuming. The phone was a fortress, locked down with a passcode she'd recently changed. So I did something I never thought I'd be capable of. I installed a monitoring software on our shared home computer, the one she used to answer gallery emails for hours on end. The first batch of data came through 2 days later. It was a transcript of messages from a secure messaging app. The recipient was code-named Orion. The messages were breathtaking in their cruelty to me.
They were filled with passion, with shared jokes that I wasn't part of, with plans for secret meetings. They talked about my predictable nature, my boring stability. I was the safe harbor, while Orion was the grand adventure. Sarah, my Sarah, wrote things I hadn't heard her say in years. "I feel alive with you," one message read. "He just maintains things. You and I, we build worlds." Each word was a new stab wound. Who was Orion? A wealthy art collector? A rival artist? I scrolled through months of their conversations, my hands shaking, a bitter metallic taste in my mouth. I couldn't find a single clue to his real identity. They were careful, too careful. The gaslighting intensified. When I tried to talk to her about the distance between us, she'd turn it around on me. "You're being so needy lately, Mark. Is work stressful? You seem so insecure. We're fine. You need to trust me." She weaponized our history, our therapy sessions from years ago, painting me as the anxious, overthinking husband who was suffocating her creative spirit. I started to doubt my own sanity. In my desperation, I confided in the one person I thought I could trust implicitly, her brother, David. David wasn't just my brother-in-law, he was my best friend. We'd met in college, long before I ever met Sarah. He was the one who introduced us. He was the best man at our wedding. I told him everything, my voice cracking as I sat in his study, a glass of whiskey sweating in my trembling hand. He listened patiently, his face a mask of concern. "Man, that's rough," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "But Sarah loves you. She's just a free spirit. You can't cage her. Maybe give her some space. Don't push her away by being paranoid." His advice felt like a betrayal in itself, a dismissal of my genuine pain. But I listened. I tried to back off. It was the worst mistake I could have made. 2 weeks later, the dam of my restraint finally broke. Sarah told me she was going to an all-night inspiration session at her studio across town, a common enough excuse. But the watch link still sat in that ceramic dish, mocking me. My gut screamed that something was wrong. At 11 p.m., I drove to her studio. The building was dark, her car nowhere in sight. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. I used the Find My Phone app, a tool we used for emergencies. Her phone's location pinged not at the studio, but at a place called Lover's Point, a scenic overlook on the edge of town. My world tilted on its axis. I drove, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I parked at the bottom of the hill and walked the rest of the way, sticking to the shadows of the trees. Her car was there, parked in the most secluded spot. And through the windshield, I saw them. 2 silhouettes, heads close together. Then the dome light flickered on as a door opened. Sarah got out, laughing, and the man in the driver's seat followed.
He pulled her into a passionate embrace under the cold, indifferent light of the moon. I crept closer, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I needed to see his face. I needed to know who had destroyed my life. The man turned his head slightly, saying something that made Sarah laugh again, a sound that was now grotesque to my ears. The moonlight illuminated his features perfectly. It was David, my best friend, my brother-in-law, the man who had told me to trust my wife. Orion, the stars in the sky seemed to mock me. The betrayal was so absolute, so profound, it stole the air from my lungs. It wasn't just an affair, it was a conspiracy. The 2 people closest to me in the world, outside of my own parents, had systematically dismantled my life, my trust, my very sense of reality, all while pretending to care. I didn't confront them. I didn't scream or charge out from the trees. A strange, terrifying calm washed over me. The pain was so immense, it transcended rage and became something else entirely. Clarity. I stumbled back to my car. The image of them kissing burned onto the back of my eyelids. My revenge would not be a crime of passion. It would be a work of architecture, precise, calculated, and designed to bring their entire world crashing down around them. Our 10th anniversary party was in 3 weeks. It was meant to be a huge celebration at our home with all our friends and family. It would now serve a different purpose. It would be the stage for my final act. For the next 3 weeks, I was the perfect husband. I was attentive, loving, and apologetic. I told Sarah she was right, that I'd been insecure, and I was sorry for pushing her. She and David lapped it up, their guilt assuaged by my apparent return to blissful ignorance. They grew bolder, their secret touches and knowing glances happening right under my nose. While I played the fool, I was meticulously deconstructing our laugh together. I met with a divorce lawyer. I opened a new bank account in my name only. I was the primary earner, the one who managed our finances. With a few clicks, I liquidated a significant portion of our joint investments and transferred the funds. I contacted a real estate agent, and using a power of attorney Sarah had signed years ago for a property deal, I quietly listed our house for a quick sale to a cash buyer. They were a developer who wanted the land and were willing to close in 2 weeks, no questions asked. The closing date was the day after our anniversary party. I spent my evenings not watching television, but compiling my evidence. I retrieved the chat logs. I hired a private investigator for 1 day to get high-resolution photos of Sarah and David meeting at a hotel. I prepared a slideshow, not of our 10 years of happy memories, but of 10 years of lies, culminating in the ultimate betrayal. The night of the party arrived. The house was filled with music, laughter, and the scent of champagne.
Our friends and family, including Sarah and David's parents, milled around, congratulating us. Sarah was radiant in a silver dress. David, ever the charming best friend, at my side, a drink in his hand. They looked so comfortable, so untouchable. Standing there, surrounded by the people we loved, I felt nothing but a cold, hollow resolve. After an hour, I clinked a glass for attention. "A toast," I announced, my voice steady. A hush fell over the room. Sarah beamed at me, slipping her arm through mine. It took all my strength not to recoil. I began my speech. 10 years, I said, raising my glass. A decade of memories, of building a life. I wanted to share some of those memories with you tonight. I gestured to the large projection screen we'd set up.
The first image was a photo of Sarah and me on our wedding day. There were murmurs of awe. The next was a picture of us in Italy. Then the slideshow flickered. A new image appeared, a screenshot of a text message from Sarah to Orion, reading, "I can't wait to be in your arms again. Mark is so boring, I feel like I'm dying." A collective gasp went through the room. Sarah's face went white. Before she could speak, the next slide appeared, a crystal clear photo of her and David kissing passionately at Lover's Point. Then another, of them checking into a hotel. The chat logs scrolled across the screen, one damning message after another. Sarah's mother let out a small, wounded cry. David looked like he had been turned to stone. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment before I spoke again, my voice devoid of emotion. I wanted to thank my best friend, David, for always giving me such great advice, like telling me to trust my wife. I looked directly at him. And I want to thank my wife, Sarah, for showing me what a lie our perfect life truly was. I set my champagne glass down. This party is my gift to you both. It's a coming out party of sorts. I pulled a set of keys from my pocket and placed them on the table. These are for the house, which, by the way, is sold. The new owners take possession tomorrow at noon. All your things are in boxes in the garage. Sarah finally found her voice, a strangled whisper. "What have you done?" "I've set myself free," I said calmly. "Our joint accounts have been liquidated to finance my new beginning. As for your things, well, I'm sure your parents have a spare room for you both." I looked around at the stunned faces of our friends and family. "Enjoy the party. The catering is paid for." And with that, I turned and walked out the front door. I didn't run. I didn't look back. My single suitcase was already in the trunk of my car. I drove to the airport, checked in for my one-way flight to Rome, and sat down at the gate. As the plane took off, soaring above the city lights, I didn't feel joy or triumph. I felt the profound, aching emptiness of loss. But for the first time in months, I also felt a sliver of something else. Peace.
The foundation of my old life was destroyed, but for an architect like me, that only meant one thing. It was time to build something new.